Good morning and welcome to ClearPath Retirement Radio. I am your host, Stewart Smith, and I'm happy to have Mitch Davies back in the studio with me today.
Good morning, guys.
Welcome back, Mitch. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
We've got a great show for you guys today. We are going to be talking about the retirement income gap. So let's get into this, Mitch. I tell you, we see this a lot from folks that come in and do their planning with us. What most people are a little surprised to see is just the difference between what they think they need and what they actually need to fund retirement. And we call that the retirement income gap. And I'll just start by saying that most people are under the impression that about a 4% withdrawal rate from their investment portfolio is going to be the safe withdrawal rate, meaning how much they feel like they can safely take out of that portfolio without eroding principal too much and making that portfolio stretch out and last. And when you look at a 4% withdrawal rate and inflation that's around 3%, you're probably talking about a portfolio that needs to average in excess of a 7% return to just not erode principal. And if we go with that number, then a $1 million portfolio, which sounds like a lot.
It does.
Is actually, if you go with that 4% withdrawal rate on that, that's $40,000 a year, Mitch.
Right.
And even if you've got Social Security in addition to that, it's not living, the big life.
Right.
And so, a lot of people are surprised at that. And I can tell you that if you're not fortunate enough to have a pension or something on top of that, then that can be hard to live off of.
It can. And you're absolutely right, Stuart. I mean, that 4% safe withdrawal rate has been the standard, for the last 10, 15 years. And what we've seen is a couple massive shifts, right? We've seen not only the inflation landscape, dramatically increase over the last 5, 10 years, especially as we've seen, especially post-COVID, we've seen a lot of government spending. We've seen inflation become more of a problem, right? Become more of something we have to dramatically plan for. In addition to that, we've seen, dramatic healthcare improvements, which are creating longer retirements. So when we've got volatile markets, we've got increasing inflation at a rapid rate that's, you used to be able to just say 1.5%, 2% inflation. Can't do that anymore. So we've got longer retirements, we've got more inflation. This is becoming more and more complex and requires more complex planning. And thankfully, it's a dynamic landscape. We have a lot of different ways to address this income gap. So I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, I tell you, the average retirement now lasts 20 to 30 years. And that's 2 or 3 decades of expenses that your savings has to cover without a paycheck coming in.
Right.
And that can be a scary thought for a lot of folks, I know. And then, like you said, healthcare is that wild card.
Yeah.
Fidelity estimates the average couple will spend $15,000 out of pocket on healthcare and retirement. And I promise you, people are not averaging that into their retirement plan.
No.
There is a gap between what people assume they'll need and what they've actually planned for. That gap is often $500,000 to $1 million, and most don't discover that they don't have what they need until it's too late.
And that's that's one of the main questions that we hear when people first come in and sit down with us is they want to see that, how do we map that out? How do we cover that gap? How do we cover different market scenarios? How do we cover different environments that are certainly going to happen throughout a 20, 30-year retirement is, we're going to see major expenses come up. We're going to see down markets. We're going to see up markets. We're going to see healthcare. How do we take what we've worked for the last 35, 40 years to build and have it cover all these different scenarios? And that's the biggest question that we see that we're able to answer for folks.
Yeah, and I tell you, if you're within that 10 to 5 year window,
Yep.
down to 5 year window, and you're getting into that retirement red zone, we like to call it, where those decisions that you make in that last 5 years before you retire are critical decisions and can impact the entirety of that 20 to 30 year retirement. Sit down with us, let us take a look, let us get our arms around things, let us see what adjustments need to be made now. Let us try to understand, is there a gap that we need to start addressing and giving us the time that we need to do that. That is critical that we have the time to go ahead and make adjustments and go ahead and fix that gap, while we still can.
Right. And that segues perfectly into the first point. What we see a lot is that people think that, the only way to fill that gap or to even bridge that gap in any way is just to continue working. And we see it so often, Stewart. People come in and they're working part-time, maybe it's a couple and both of them are working, they've stepped back, they partially retired, they're working part-time for a few more years to help bridge that gap. But what we find when we sit down and run different tax analysis and really look at the overall picture is they could have bridged the gap without working, and they're actually working to pay more taxes on Medicare and to pay more taxes on Social Security. And so we find a lot of inefficiencies there that if we are able to sit down with them before they get to that point in that retirement red zone, it's really can make a huge difference.
Huge difference. And I tell you, we have people in our office all the time. I was sitting with a potential client yesterday, and she was just sharing with me that the current advisor that she's working with, she really likes the guy. He's really a personable person and really has tried to do good by her. But she said, Stewart, I sit up in bed at night and I still have questions that aren't being answered. I'm still wondering, I'm still working, I'm in my mid-60s. I like what I do and I have a lot of flexibility and I make great money, but I'm wondering, am I working to just pay more taxes at this point? And, does it make sense for me to keep working? And how much is it truly helping me as I'd like to step away here and, do the things that I really want to do and focus more on the retirement that I really want. But at this point, I just can't get those questions answered. And that's exactly the kind of questions that we do answer, because we talk about it all the time, but we are a planning first retirement planning firm, and we get extremely detailed in the planning that we do for folks. And, a lot of guys are very vague on these things. I mean, she said her current advisor had told her, hey, you should probably look at doing Roth conversions, and then it never came up again.
Right.
And it's like, Mitch and I are just baffled by that, because we're like, look, it's your job as a retirement planner to not only, tell the client that they need to consider Roth conversions, but to carry that ball forward and actually model them out, find the optimal Roth conversion strategy that's going to work for that client, and then make sure that if you need to, you take that client's hand every single year and you do make sure that you're doing the Roth conversion, you're getting the money out of the IRA, you're getting it over into a Roth account where it can grow tax-free from there, and they never have to worry about paying taxes on that money again or taking required minimum distributions. And that's what we do. That's you don't just mention it and then it never comes up again. That you leave that client wondering, do I need to do these? How do I do these? How does this look? What does this impact? How exactly does this impact me long term? And I think, that's what we're doing every day with our clients at the firm, is real, detailed, actual taking action retirement planning for our clients. And, we've heard it time and time again that clients have been with other advisors and worked with other firms, and they come over to us and they say, I have never seen planning at the level that you guys do it, and you have just so much brought me so much clarity and so much more confidence in what I'm doing in retirement. And you guys have really helped me just take all these worries off the table and sleep better at night, understanding that I can confidently go take that vacation or buy that vacation home we've always wanted, and And that's what we do. That's what we do. We give clients confidence. We alleviate that stress and anxiety that they have of potentially running out of money or making a wrong move, because we're there to guide them and to really be their quarterback, so to speak, when it comes to all financial matters in their life. And they're able to, anytime they want, come sit in our office and sit down and say, hey, I'm thinking about this major purchase. I'm thinking about buying a car. I'm thinking about, buying, making a big investment that I want to do. And what does that look like, guys? Can I do this? Am I going to be okay? And we can definitively, give them the answers that they're seeking. If you think that this is something that would benefit you, if you think there's true value in just getting a second opinion from guys that live, eat, breathe, and sleep retirement planning, ClearPath is where you need to come. You need to go to clearpathretirement.com, hit the Get Started button today, Get Started Today button, and let us take a look, guys. Just let's have a conversation and see if we can bring some strategies and some ideas to the table that you've never thought about. And we'd love to have that conversation with you. clearpathretirement.com, hit the Get Started button, and let's have that conversation.